All right, let's dive right in. We're about to explore the most intimate record of your entire life. And no, I'm not talking about a journal, and it's not even in your head. I'm talking about your skeleton. And trust me, it is so much more than just a frame.
So, when you think about your bones, what comes to mind? Probably something hard, silent, maybe inert, right? A scaffold. But what if I told you they're actually one of the most active, dynamic tissues in your entire body? Yeah, let's really dig into that idea.
And that brings us to this central idea for this whole thing. What if your skeleton was a living diary? One that's constantly recording every moment of your life. Your nutrition, how you move, even the illnesses you've had, it's all in there.
Okay, so first things first. We have to completely change how we think about bone. It is absolutely not some static piece of rock inside of you. No way. It's a complex living organ. That's right, an organ. In fact, bone is one of the most metabolically active tissues you've got. It's always in a state of flux, constantly being rebuilt, broken down, adapting to everything you do. And it's quietly writing that history right into its own structure.
So you're probably wondering, how does this constant rebuilding even work? Well, the best way I've found to picture it is to imagine your skeleton as this bustling city that is always under construction. Inside the city, you've got two key teams of cells. Think of them this way. First, you have the osteoclasts. They're the demolition crew. Their job is to go in and clear away old, worn-out bone. And then, right on their heels, you've got the osteoblasts. They are the construction crew, laying down fresh, new bone. And get this, that whole cycle is happening inside you at this very moment. And this is where we get a really important insight into something like osteoporosis. See, it's not just about having less bone or not enough calcium. It's really a disease of imbalance. The demolition crew, those osteoclasts, they start working way too fast. They're tearing things down faster than the construction crew can possibly rebuild. And that leads to a really fragile, weak structure.
Okay, so this whole process of remodeling, it's not random at all. It's actually a highly, highly regulated process. So that begs the question, who's in charge? Who's giving the orders to our demolition and construction crews?
Well, it turns out your bones are incredible listeners. They are constantly responding to three main types of signals. First, the mechanical load, the actual forces you put on them. Second, the hormonal messages flowing through your body. And third, believe it or not, signals from your own immune system.
Let's talk about that first one, mechanical load. Every time you walk or run or lift something heavy, these tiny little sensor cells that are actually embedded inside your bone, they detect that strain. And what do? They send out signals to the construction crew, basically shouting, hey, reinforce this area. We need to be stronger here. It's the perfect biological example of use it or lose it.
All right, next up, hormones. These are incredibly powerful rulers of our bone city. Estrogen, for example, is one of the strongest protectors of bone that we have. So after menopause, when estrogen levels drop sharply, it's like taking the brakes off the demolition crew. They just ramp up their activity, and that's why bone loss can accelerate so dramatically. But it's not just estrogen. Testosterone, thyroid hormone, even the stress hormone cortisol, they all have a say in what's going on.
And finally, let's talk about the immune system. This is a connection that, honestly, a lot of people just don't realize exists. When you have chronic inflammation, say from a condition like rheumatoid arthritis or just any long-term inflammatory state, it sends out signals that basically supercharge that demolition crew. And the result? Weaker bones. But wait, there's more. The skeleton's job doesn't just stop at being a strong frame that renews itself. Nope. It has some pretty surprising secret jobs that actually affect your entire body.
Okay, get ready for this because it's one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern biology. Your skeleton isn't just a structure, it's an endocrine organ. That's right, your bones actually produce and release their own hormones. One of them is called osteocalcin, and researchers have linked it to how our bodies handle glucose and regulate energy. Your skeleton is literally talking to the rest of your body. And that's not all. Deep inside many of your bones is the marrow. And you can think of the bone marrow as the factory for your entire blood and immune system. I mean, everything. Every single red blood cell, every white blood cell, every platelet you have, it all starts right there. Which means your skeletal health is directly, and I mean directly, connected to the health of your blood and your ability to fight off infection.
Okay, so we've established that bone is this living, breathing diary. But what happens when that diary reveals damage? When a fracture occurs, often silently, without us even realizing the weakness was there?
It's actually amazing when a bone breaks, the body launches this remarkable, super organized reconstruction project. It all starts with inflammation and a blood clot to seal things off. Then it creates something called a soft callus. It's kind of like cartilage to stabilize the area. After that, the soft callus gets replaced by a hard callus of new bone. And finally, over months, the body remodels that patch, strengthening it and making sure it's perfectly aligned with all the forces it has to deal with. It's a miracle of engineering. Now, I'm sure you've heard about bone density scans when we talk about bone health, right? It's a key number we look at, but is it the whole story? Does it really tell us everything we need to know?
The answer is a resounding no. It's not the whole story. The internal microarchitecture, the actual scaffolding inside the bone, that is just as important, if not more so, for strength. You could have two people with the exact same bone density score, but if one has a messy, poorly organized internal structure, their risk of fracture is going to be way, way higher. And all of this brings us to some really good news, because understanding this incredibly complex biology has led to some much more sophisticated, much smarter ways of treating bone loss and actually rebuilding strength.
So modern treatments basically fall into two main camps. You have the anti-resorptive therapies. These are the most common, and they work by, you guessed it, slowing down the demolition crew, our osteoclasts. But then, for more severe cases, we have what are called anabolic therapies. These do the complete opposite. They directly stimulate and supercharge the construction crew, the osteoblasts, to actively build brand new bone.
But, and this is so important to remember, these advanced therapies don't replace the fundamentals. You can't just skip the basics. A solid foundation, getting enough protein, enough vitamin D, doing strength training, working on your balance, all of that is absolutely essential. The biology and your lifestyle have to work hand in hand. So when you boil it all down, we come back to this one powerful idea. Your skeleton is not just a frame. It's a living diary written in mineral and collagen. It is a record of your life. It remembers everything. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Knowing now that every step you take, every meal you eat, every weight you lift, it's all being recorded in this living diary inside you. What story do you want your bones to tell?